Well, hello. I hope this finds you well wherever you might be, particularly in these crazy times. And speaking of which, I'm doing a series of posts this week on what I think are 10 of the key behaviours, traits, and skills that leaders will require in order to successfully lead during these COVID-19 times, and indeed to be able to successfully lead in the longer term in a world that is increasingly VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Which brings me to post number 5, and one I'm really passionate about, which is the need for leaders to communicate, communicate, communicate. And I touched on this in a previous series of posts as well. It's a time when you need to be out there quite frequently talking to staff, keeping them up to date as to what your plans are, and being very, as I'd noted in a previous post, being quite vulnerable, being very open and transparent about that. There may be times when you don't have solutions, but boy, you are working on them collectively with other leaders from across your organization and perhaps outside of your organization. But as I'd also noted in a previous post, there's almost like a duality or a tension in some of what you've got to do. So it's vital that you get out there and communicate and tell your staff within your organization, but also your key stakeholders, your customers, etc., about what you're doing. So you're almost like being a marketer, that showing how your organization is on top of things as well as it can be. But there's also a need to listen, and to listen deeply. And for many leaders, that's a real challenge because if I was in a room with you, I'd ask for a show of hands for somebody to suggest if they know, if they could um, point out somebody who was a great listener. Because they're few and far between, aren't they? But in these times when people are scared and emotional and angry and worried, having them being able to listen to, speak to a listener will be absolutely so important to them, and something that they might keep in mind for many years to come. So, something to think about. As always, thank you so much for your time. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I'd love to hear it. Or if you want to challenge me on my views, love to hear that too, because that's how I learn and grow as well. Take care.